What's up, everybody? We're back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome back to Metalhead's Journey. Hey, hopefully you've been following along with us here for a little bit, and you know that we're not doing anything confusing at all. We're trying to do 4 top 20 lists at the same time. This week we are on to the top 20 new metal albums of all time. We have reached number 16 on that list. This is Incubus with the album Make Yourself. We'll do a quick history of the band here, and then we'll get right into the review. So, like I said, Incubus, Make Yourself. This is number 16 on the top 20 new metal albums of all time. Incubus, formed in 1991, is an American rock band. American rock band? That's weird. From Calabasas, California. The band was formed by vocalist Brandon Boyd, lead guitarist Mike Ziegler, and drummer Jose Pasillas while in high school together. The band has released 8 studio albums, including the most recent album. This is very original, 8, which was released in 2017. They've sold over 23 million records worldwide. Clearly, what do I know? Make Yourself, released in 1999, is the band's 3rd studio album. The album was considered to be more commercial than their previous efforts. They wrote the album in 8 weeks following the conclusion of their previous tour for the Science album. Actually, if I'm being very specific, it was the SCIENCE album because, they had periods for every one of them, just like WASP did. The album went double platinum and featured 3 singles, Pardon Me, Stellar, and Drive. Drive went on to be the band's most successful song of all time.
Interesting.
Listen, I'm going to be the most negative here by far. So let me just go first. I have very little to say about this record. I don't get it. I don't understand. It's not even a situation. Look, one, it doesn't deserve to be on the list, but that's not really my hang up on the album. Like, it's just, I could be like Dave right now, and I could just say, "Oh, it's not good." But look, really, it's just not for me. Okay, I don't like what's going on this record. It doesn't sound good to me. It's like, I don't know, man. It's like nails on a chalkboard. Screaming cats. It's like whatever, like Lloyd Christmas and Dumb and Dumber doing his screaming thing. Like, dude, insert whatever random sound that you hate. That's exactly how I feel about this record.
The fork against the plate.
There you go. I just don't think there's very much in terms of redeeming qualities for me for this record. The only plus is it did remind me of this record I used to love like 20 plus years ago by a band called 311, and it was their self-titled record 311. And so I went back and listened to that record like 4 times in the last week and thought, man, I wish we were doing this record, which is way more new metal than this record is, and better. So yeah, I hated this record.
Wow. I'm gonna just have to immediately just disagree with what Josh said. I think there's a lot to enjoy with this record, and I do think it's new metal. I think a lot of us in our brains go towards the heavier side of new metal instantly, to like the Slipknots of the world and the System of a Downs. But dude, like, there were plenty of bands that had this type of sound at that time.
They were called alternative.
I mean, that is one of the ways to describe them. Sure, alt metal and new metal is one of those ways.
Alt rock.
I wouldn't call this. I mean, you can, sure. I mean, at the end of the day, I think there's enough elements of new metal that this is representative of that time period. This definitely would have been on the modern rock radio at the time, along with all the other. It was all over the
place. I'm sure you guys heard all the singles. Yeah.
My thing is if you don't consider this new metal, then I think Linkin Park's album Hybrid Theory would also be in that same ballpark. Now, I'm not going to say that there's not individual examples where one is leaning more towards new metal than the other, but dude, there are songs on here that absolutely sound like Linkin Park to me, and this came out before that.
I mean, look, what's the most new metal? Korn, so to say. I mean, in terms of total sound.
Sure, like just the straight down tune, drop D guitars and all that.
if Korn's a 10, Incubus is a 1 in terms of this, and I would say Linkin Park is like a 4. Like they at least have some much more aggressive guitar work, like riffs and vocals.
I mean, I don't.
Especially the vocals.
I mean, I don't,
Yeah.
again, I don't think aggression is the only factor of new metal.
Of course it's not, but there are if we're making a checklist, like if you want to be pedantic about it and like say what makes a song new metal, this doesn't tick enough boxes for me. I'll save my spiel for after you're done, Dave, but I agree with Josh. I don't think this is new metal. I don't think it even belongs on this list.
I'm going to take the side of Dave only in the fact of the reason why it's new metal is because the issue with a lot of music through the 90s is it didn't fit a group. And the problem was that every band that came out, it's like, oh, they're not that. They got to be their own thing. You got to have 18 medals, 18 this and 25 that, and 64 different versions of this. And in this time period, they were touring on Ozfest, Korn, all of these, the new metal kind of scene that was out at the time. And when you take the fact that a lot of their music incorporates funk and rap and a DJ and metal, then they get lumped in with new metal. Now we can argue about it now because new metal came and went, and now it's making a slow comeback.
Dude, they had Andrew WK and Crazy Town on Ozfest as well, and I don't think we would go as far as to say they were new metal.
Well, here's another example. System of a Down often gets lumped into new metal. I don't like to consider them new metal personally, but again, they're on this list because they came out with heavy music around that time period, right?
It's like Soundgarden and grunge. I don't think Soundgarden is especially
I agree.
grunge.
I agree. I just think you just have a situation where they got put into that group, and that's where that's where they end up.
Anyway,
I hear what you're saying. And I do agree mostly with your thought process. I just think if we're quantifying things, this doesn't tick enough boxes to even be metal at all. Like there are certain things that, for me at least, in order for it to be metal, it's got to have a certain, whatever you want to call it, vibe or attitude, or if you want to just go off of pure sound, the album's just not heavy enough for me to be considered metal. And to counterpoint you, Dave, Linkin Park has a ton of super heavy riffs. If we're looking at like a needle moving back and forth, Linkin Park definitely goes beyond the threshold for metal, whereas this doesn't for me.
I mean, all of this stuff is subjective. I mean, I don't disagree. All this stuff is subjective. Clearly enough people consider this new metal. Otherwise, it would not have shown up on the list. So,
Yeah,
right.
What do we know?
I think
Right?
I think we all can say that when they came around, people were like, "Well, I don't know what this sound is," and new metal was out, so they're new metal.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think there's enough there to label them. If you want to argue the percentage, the percentage of new metal, or
is it just because they had like a turntable, someone playing turntables on there? Is that why?
I mean, I don't know. You're asking the wrong person. But if, like I said, if you want to argue how much new metal they are, sure, that's whatever. I don't care. At the end of the day,
but Dave, what's your opinion on the record, Dave?
I thought this was thoroughly enjoyable. I'm actually surprised you don't like it, Josh. I think there's a lot to like here. I don't think anything on this new metal list is going to be considered mind blowing, just because of the nature of the genre.
Breaks.
But I think this the songs were incredibly catchy. This album doesn't overstay its welcome even a little bit. There are, in my opinion, again, there are some songs that kind of sound similar to each other to certain degrees, but I think, again, that's just kind of the nature of commercial music in general, not necessarily an issue with this record in specifically. But I really enjoyed it. I was surprised by I knew the hits, but I was surprised by how much I actually enjoyed the non-hits to the album for the most part. And I thought this was a really easy listen. I didn't have to force myself to listen to this one bit.
I just want to get on record real quick that Dave is saying that Toxicity is not a mind-blowing record. I just want to put that out there. Just want to make sure everybody understands that. Jason, go ahead. What do you think about the record?
I thought it was a better than fine album, but I'm going to agree with Dave. The issues with the album are the fact that they're, except for a few songs, and they stick out like sore thumbs. It's very formulaic. It does sound a lot of the same things over and over. And so, to Dave's point about overstaying your welcome, it's hard to do that when you don't realize the song change because like, you're just doing something else.
No, I don't have that
And,
problem, but yeah.
and well, that's why. And and me and you had talked about this. Uh, I didn't have a problem with a lot of the songs. The issue I had was that once you heard the hits and a couple of other songs, the rest were a lot of filler.
Yep. Jonah, what you got?
Yeah, so I mean, I already kind of touched on it, but my biggest criticism of this album is its placement, or even being on the list to begin with. And I know, again, I'm just being pedantic about it, but
Look at you.
it doesn't feel metal, much less new metal, in my opinion. But that's not to say it's not good, because I did enjoy it. There were a few lowlights, and Jason, I think you nailed it right on the head. If I'm not specifically paying attention to what track I'm listening to, I can't tell sometimes that I'm on a different song, because I mean, maybe it's just the way that the song, the way it was recorded, and some of the songs just kind of flow into each other more naturally, which I guess could be considered a good thing. But a lot of them do sound very samey, and not maybe not necessarily formulaic, but like. So this album has a specific like vibe and sound. It's not exactly my vibe and sound, but again, I did enjoy a lot of it. For me, the highlight was, and we're going to get into this more detail probably later, but for me, the highlight was the instruments specifically. I thought the guitars sounded really good. Some of the effects were a little, funky and wacky, but overall, I thought the guitars were mixed really well. And the bass carried this album for me.
We'll go right into your MVP.
Okay, yeah, it's gonna be an easy Dirk Lance, aka Alex Katanich, vote for me. I thought the bass on this album was outstanding, especially on a couple of tracks, which is a hint at some of the other categories. But when it comes, like the main riff and like at the end, the riff that they're playing. The bass is carrying that through the verse, and it sounds really good. On Battlestar Skralactica, I mean, the bass goes off on that. Even if it's not your favorite song, which I have a feeling it's not going to be a lot of people's favorite song, the bass sounds really good. Like, the bassist is going off. And then on the song Clean, too, the main verse riff, the bass is going off on that one, and it sounds really good. Brandon Boyd's vocals are a little quirky, and it might be a turnoff for some people. It's not quite for me, but I don't hate it, especially on some of the songs where you want to sing along to, and you really want to sing along to those songs with him. So that was my overall impression.
Jason, who's your MVP?
I'm gonna agree with Jonah. I'm just gonna say Dirk Lance because that's his name on the record. I thought I didn't. I wouldn't say that the rest of the instruments didn't do their part, but the way they use the bass, it drives a lot of the songs, and it makes it more enjoyable. And to Jonah's point, clean, solid. Like I said, I didn't care one way or the other for the vocalist. He's easy to sing with because he doesn't go any too highs, and it's easy. Dirk Lance.
Go ahead, Dave.
I think this is an easy Brandon Boyd vote for me, the singer. I think he carries most of these songs. I enjoy singing along to the majority of them, even especially the ones that aren't the hits. I mean, not more so than the hits, but just like I just found myself enjoying all of his vocals for the most part. I like his vocal style. I think he's got a good voice, and I think the lyrics are above average for. And I don't know if he's the lyricist, but I'm just saying I think the lyrics are above average, especially for this genre. Because most of what new metal you get is, I hate my parents, and
And this is all about pissing in the wind and stinking. Yeah, dude. Totally good lyrics.
Sure, I'm sure that's what it's all about, Josh. You nailed it. You're so smart. Yeah, easy Brandon Boyd for me.
Look, tough category for me, obviously. I would go Brandon Boyd here. I think more maybe as the rhythm guitar player. He's listed as a rhythm guitar player as well. So I don't know if he's a songwriter or if it's more Mike, the lead guitar player. But there are a couple of interesting moments on the album from a music standpoint. So that's where I would lead. And that would just kind of lead into my best riff. I'm going to go with just kind of like the whole intro to Stellar. For me is the best riff. Maybe you can just say best lick. I don't know if it's as much of a riff, but total, spoiler for later. That's like the number one song on the album for me too. And I don't know, it's really the only song I can really get with on this record. And it was on Guitar Hero. So I think maybe that was why I was introduced to this song and why maybe I like it now. But for me, that was the best riff.
That's not even in my top 3. That song.
Which one? Stellar?
Stellar. Yeah, it's not in my top 3. I'll go.
Riff?
It would be from When It Comes. During the it's coming around again part. Just overall, also like just most of the guitar work from Out From Under, the last song. It is the heaviest song on the record generally. So like I like the riffing on that song as well. But I think the When It Comes has like the main riff of that song is kind of where I'm at on it. But I think this album is very vocal led, so the riffs are kind of just there to better the song, not necessarily like a showcase of a riff. So for better or worse.
What you got, Jason?
All right, so I'm gonna give mine, and then we'll just go into top 3.
Well, Jonah's got to give his.
Jonah's got to go. Yeah.
Okay, then go first, Jonah.
Okay. What are we doing? Best riff, right?
Best
okay.
riff.
So I already mentioned all 3 of my top picks, but for Battlestar and Clean, those were my honorable mentions. I thought they sounded really good. The bass specifically. And then Dave, you nailed it. It's When It Comes. The main riff and the one at the that they're playing at the end in the outro. It's heavy. It sounds really good.
All right, Jason.
All right, so best riff. I have the opening minute and 30 seconds of Clean. Love that. The rest of the song kind of drags it down, in my opinion, but it's my number 3. It's my number 2. And my number 3 is Drive. Number 2 is Clean, and number 1 is The Warmth, which I also think has the best chorus.
Yeah, it's good.
All right, Jonah, what's your top 3?
For me, it's gonna be for number 3 because I actually knew a lot more of this album than I was expecting. I haven't never listened to the entire album, but through happenstance, I've heard quite a few of the tracks on here, and this one is a nostalgia pick for me. But my number 3 is going to be "I Miss You." I think it's a good song. I think it's a really good song. Number 2, "Privilege." I think it's a solid opener. It's a good jam. It's got some good guitar work in it as well. And for me, number 1, it's got to be Drive. I mean, every time that song comes on, especially if I'm in the car, I'm singing that song at the top of my lungs. I think that song is so good.
Yeah. I'll go next. I think I didn't have any real honorable mentions. I guess if I had to pick one, I would pick the last song as an honorable mention. I think it's really good. My number 3 is "Pardon Me." That is one of the singles that came out I think it was maybe the first single for the album. That song,
that's my honorable mention.
That song is really good. I really enjoy that song. Number 2 is "Nowhere Fast." I really enjoy that song. I think "Privilege" also is a really good song. I think like the opening 8-song salvo from this record is super good. But "Nowhere Fast" would be my number 2, and my number 1. And I'm not even sure it's close. It is The Warmth. I think that is infinitely the best song from the record. Every time I went through this record and that song came on, it would end and I would always replay it again.
It was my number one by a long shot.
Yeah, I think if I looked at my total like track plays on this record, I think The Warmth would have like 4 to 7 more plays than the second most played song that I've heard from this album. So, yeah.
Josh,
Dave,
there's number 3.
Yeah, Dave, you almost had a good list there. Number 3 for me, Pardon Me. Good single. Number 2, Nowhere Fast, and then number 1 for me was Stellar. That's the only song that's really standable on this record. All right, so as we know, in metal, there's kind of an unwritten rule that any great album has 8 songs. This album has 13 songs, so that should tell you that it's not great. So what we like to do is we like to do the exercise where we cut it down to 8 songs to try to make the best record possible. I'll go first here. This could really be almost any 5 songs outside of a couple, but this is what I went with because these were really the most offensive to me. Consequence, Make Yourself, Battlestar Scarlactia, I Miss You, and Out From Under.
All right.
I'll go next. Mine are pretty easy, I suppose. I went with Clean, Battlestar Scarlactica, and I Miss You. So just those 3 songs are just gone. Make Yourself, and then my last one was a little bit difficult. I kind of went back and forth. I do like Drive, but if I had to limit it to 8, I would lean towards the heavier stuff. So I would cut Drive and then move Out From Under all the way back to the those.
All right, go ahead, Jason.
All right, so easy cut is Battlescar Shitville. That was easy. That's terrible. Then you have, for me, Privilege, which is a solid opener, but it's gone. Nowhere Fast, a little too slow. Let's see. When It Comes, I could never get into that. It's not good. And Out From Under.
All right, go ahead, Jonah.
Wow, that's really funny.
Jason cut all the songs that I didn't cut. Except for Battlestar Scarlactica.
What I find funny is that there's one particular song on here that we all have on our cut list except for Dave. So in order of, I guess, highest score to lowest score. So the worst song I'm going to go last. So I've got Nowhere Fast. Didn't quite click with me. The Warmth I thought was decent, but not much more than that. Battlestar Scarlactica. I can't deny the talent, but it's not for me, so I had to cut it. Make Yourself, I thought was pretty all right, but for the most part, not a very good song. And despite this song being probably the most nu metal sounding track on the entire album, and hypocritically and ironically, I just don't like this song. It's got to be Out From Under. That's easily the worst song on the album for me.
Nice. All right. Well, hey, we made it to the portion of the show here. We like to give our score for the record. And just give you some context, for a lot of folks out there, a 7 would be an average score. Well, for us, it's a 5. So anything that's like 4.9 and below, that's various levels of we would not recommend the record. Anything 5 and above is various levels of we would recommend it. And anything that scores in that 9 to 10 range is like an all-time classic record.
I'll go
let me
first.
go first quick. Let me go first quickly. I'll just clear out.
No. Let me go first. Okay. Because anybody who's watching this may not want to continue after the 3 of you give your scores. So, I'm going to have the highest score almost guaranteed. And it's not even a crazy high score. I thought this record was really good. Admittedly, I don't know that it would be something I would just oh man, I can't wait to put this on. But if I did put it on, I don't know that I would skip most of the songs outside of 1 or 2 that I think I would actively skip. I gave it a 7.4. I thought this record was really good.
Wow.
I enjoyed it.
That is high.
I mean,
That's
I
very
think
high.
I think it's really good. Now, for
Okay.
reference, I don't give anything. I don't give anything an 8 or above unless it's something I actively am going to listen to, like purposefully. With reckless abandon. So for me, anything below an 8 is varying degrees of how often am I going to listen to it. I recognize this record is good, but again, it's not a record that I'm just gonna like. It's not gonna stay in my rotation regularly. Um, I may not listen to this again for another year or whatever, but I recognize that I enjoyed it, and I never once felt like it was a chore to listen to. I thought it. I mean, if you're into alt metal or new metal or
Whatever the fuck this is.
whatever this is, if you grew up in this time, you will enjoy this record. I think.
Yeah,
I grew
think
up
that's
this time.
fair.
I'll go
Yeah,
next.
but you're also
'cause
stupid, and you
I think we're
there's
gonna
that.
go in order from highest to lowest. I think I'm gonna have a better score than Jonah.
We'll see.
The the issue with the record mostly is the fact that a lot of it sounds the same. For me, that doesn't mean that it sounds bad. It just means that you end up with a bunch of meh or fine. So my score reflects a album that is you can listen to. You're not going to skip every song except for one of them, and you're probably not going to hate yourself for it playing in the background. So I gave it a 6.6.
Mm.
That's a high human fossil score.
Yeah, it is. All right,
ahead,
I'll go ahead and
Jonah.
go next. Looks like you nailed it. You did give it a higher score than me. Despite all my criticisms, I did find it mostly enjoyable. There are a couple of skippers, but nothing terribly offensive in my opinion. There was, I think, 2 songs on this album that were already in my kind of liked list and that'll come up every so often. I'm probably going to add a couple of more, but not much more than that. All that to say, I ended up giving this a 6 even. I would recommend it, like Dave said, because especially if you recognize the hits and you like those and those are some of your
Yeah.
favorite songs, you're gonna like the rest of the album for sure. But yeah, that was my final score, 6.0.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't like it. I don't understand it. It's a 3.4 for me.
Oof,
God dang.
not even a 4.
Yeah, I think that is an asinine score, personally. Like I don't understand that, but hey,
Like
that's
even
what-
even if you don't
Dave
like
giving
it,
a
I
bad
feel
score to
like
Alice in Chains.
a 4.
Yeah.
I feel like this was a personal attack, but that's fine.
If it was a personal attack, I would do it to Dream Theater.
Oh, you can't do it to stuff that's good. So anyway,
Exactly.
that leaves us with a 5.85.
Way
I
too
think
high.
I think that is I think that's pretty fair.
No,
I think so.
Look, it's better. It scored better than Cold Chamber, which it absolutely is better than that record, and it scored better than Wisconsin Death Trip, thankfully, which it is most certainly better than that record. So,
I'm not sure.
I
about that.
didn't get to say this earlier, but I wanted to get this in. When we did the Wasp album, Jason, you
WASP?
mentioned when we did WASP, you mentioned that Wasp got kind of lumped in because of the time they came out, and I guess because of their look. I think kind of the same thing happened here with new metal. The timing and the fact that they're from California.
they have a
and
DJ.
They have a DJ. Like, even though I don't think they're new metal, and I'm sure plenty of people agree, but because of all of those circumstances combined, they did get lumped into new metal, and that's fine. It's whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you have a DJ in your band and you got considered new metal at a certain time as well, go ahead and hit that like and hit the subscribe. We're putting out weekly metal content right now. We got metal reactions, metal reviews, metal time machines, and metal brackets, and all kinds of other cool shit. And hey, in the meantime, live long and prosper.
Take it easy, everybody.
Later.
Peace.